I would leave that all to the investigators, especially the UK investigators, to actually unravel to the extent of culpability of former President Olusegun Obasanjo in the whole saga. In terms of saying is Obasanjo corrupt, looking at his antecedents as the former president of Nigeria and so many of issues revolving around the cases of corruption and bribery under his regime, you would want to easily conclude that he must also be corrupt. And there were quite a number of cases, the Ali Burton cases, the Seamen cases, the National ID card cases, that has links who connect, back to President Obasanjo while in office and people who are very close to him, which will tell you to a very large extent that even though there were attempts at fighting corruption in terms of putting together the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, by the government of Obasanjo. But at the end of the regime, it was clear that he also, as much as he was attempting or portraying an image of an anti-corruption fighter, he was also culpable in quite a lot of cases that borders on bribery and corruption. But in the case in reference, I think going by the statement of Anne Welch, to the extent that she had been tutored on the issues of secrecy, then you want to wonder what level of secret are we talking about and what amount of secrecy is involved in a foundation that is meant to conduct its affairs and activities in the open and also to the benefit of the public. So you would want to wonder what was this secrecy thing all about. That is number one. Number two is the fact that she also confirmed that she's been doing that in the past. So that wasn't the first one. And I get to also ask myself, how would it have been possible if this has not been the trend in the past with the foundation and Anne Welch herself, that she was making proposals that the money be transferred into her account, where she will then transfer some of the money to the foundation's account. So it means some monies going to the foundation before had gone through her personal account. And I've worked in the civil society, NGO, and human rights community for almost 2 decades. I've never seen a situation where that is operational. The money goes straight to the account on the foundation, and then the foundation disburses in accordance with the agreement with the donor agency or any other philanthropist. So where she's talking about sending the money to Nigeria in a GTB personal account, and then now moving it to the foundation account, just to avoid the searchlight of the UK banks and government, then it tells you that it's not a thing that is just starting now and must have been around for a while. There's every reason for Jonathan to be afraid, and the same thing goes to every member of his cabinet. And I make bold to say, every member of the cabinet, that have served under this government have every reason to be afraid of not persecution. And Nigerians, even those of us in the human rights community, would never allow, any form of persecution of anybody. But there would be investigation, and we would insist on prosecution. And that for us is fundamental. We never voted for change for people to get away with their atrocities. No, it's not possible. And they are very clear. The economic situation is extremely bad, and the financial status of the country is unimaginable. So there's every reason to recover so many of the monies stolen by these guys. That is one. Two, leaving them to go away with many of this money in their kitty is a threat to the new government, because they can come back to subvert any government with the amount of money that we have in the hands of many of these corrupt officials who are leaving the government now. So it is inevitable that the money must be retrieved. Quite a number, there might be some level of form of plea bargaining because the money needs to be gotten like yesterday. So it means they must be given a period for many of them to return what they must have stolen. Under, like I said, a plea bargaining condition that would save the country unnecessary time and cost of prosecution. So at that time, anybody who sees the opportunity of that window can be allowed to return the money, and then the justice can be tampered with mercy. But for those who refuses, the prosecution must go a whole length. And the president, like I said, has every reason to fear quite a number of things gone so unimaginably, unprecedentedly bad under his regime. And there's no way, it's extremely difficult for him to be exonerated from many of the atrocities.
Finally,
it's inevitable. PDP cannot play opposition, even if you see the internal wrangling that has just started, so we don't have an opposition party. The only opposition to this government is the civil society. And it must be sharpened, it must be ready, it must start its activities from May 29. APC without caution is likely to go the way of PDP in no distant future if care is not taken. Because they parade a number of airgates, and if care is not taken, they assume the status of these know-it-all, and then they take people for granted. It's very easy. So it is only the civil society not to make the mistake of 1999 when we had the civil rule and then we retracted and say, okay, let us allow them a measure of space to unfold within the new democratic dispensation. Only that to make the mistake of building monsters in many of these politicians. But under this circumstance, the only thing we can do is to critically engage the government, hold them up to many of their promises, hold them accountable in their activities, and ensure that they work to deliver the expectation of Nigerians from the government.